Hello everyone, welcome back to the Method YouTube channel and Happy New Year to you all. It's Gumdrops here again to guide you through the World of Warcraft economy and gold-making community news from the past month or so. Last time we talked a bit about community sentiment and how that's affected the number of players participating in the game at the moment, with the hope that patch 8.1 would address some concerns and encourage people to come back to Battle for Azeroth. Since then, the patch has been released with a host of updates and changes both documented and unannounced, so I thought I'd start things off looking back on how things panned out. Some of the notable updates from the patch notes include the new tradable follower equipment that can be crafted by alchemists, Paragon reputation rewards which can include up to 5,000 gold, increased gold rewards from world quests and missions which have also been added to the game companion application on your mobile devices so you can handle those on the go. And speaking of world quests, Blizzard have finally introduced Expulsum and Anchorweed as potential rewards, just like you could get Blood of Sargeras in Legion on alts that weren't really equipped to generate them. The Darkmoon Fair profession quest will now reward skill points in the newest profession you do not have maximum points. They're basically applied in reverse chronological order from BFA back through to vanilla, although keep in mind you still do need to have 75 skill points in the vanilla section of whichever profession to get the quest in the first place. Some other undocumented changes were shared in the community, such as the speed increase of the auction house. Confirming purchases or the posting of items is very quick again thankfully, however scanning the pages before that point does remain quite sluggish. I was quite skeptical and thought this might have just been a temporary situation after a patch, but it does feel like it has persisted and continued to perform very well. If you haven't invested in a Longboy auction house mount, you no longer need to chase one around Borealis and Zuldazar, as engineers now have access to a brand new auction house NPC in both of these zones, which is great. And some other changes have been made to the Reigns of the Thundering Ruby Cloud Serpent, which is a mount from Alani in Pandaria. The mount itself is no longer bind on pickup and will only drop for the player that uses the Sky Crystal item to remove the shield around the Cloud Serpent and make it attackable. Prior to patch 8.1, you could pay up to 40,000 gold to participate in a group kill to get the mount. Now, via the auction house, the mount is going for between 100,000 and 150,000 gold depending on your region. Farming for the crystal fragments themselves to generate the Sky Crystal item, especially in a group, is actually multi-purpose as you get lots of other Pandaria materials and Gulai keys for the treasure chests, so that's potentially a revival of an older farm that you can definitely check out on your server. Aside from the changes, one of the primary new markets introduced in patch 8.1 tanked pretty quickly unfortunately. The sinister combatant gear that is crafted from all professions took a race to zero as the auction house on most servers were overwhelmed with stock as lots of players jumped in to participate. Some of you guys were quite lucky and enjoyed some above average prices, but with the crafting costs being so low and even including bind on pickup materials that some players don't really know how to value, prices fell and sales were sparse for most people. This does sometimes introduce an opportunity to flip, whereby you buy low and sell high. However, with so much stock posted, it would be pretty difficult to do that with Sinister Combatant gear as it stands. If you were looking to get into flipping BOEs in general though, it could be a good training ground, as you can identify the desirable stat combinations and get familiar with how to manage and sell your stock. So slightly after patch 8.1 was released, Blizzard actually put out a statement about players that utilize the system to turn off experience gains. This would be to create what are known as Twinks. In the current content, the most common thing you would do with a Twink character is run island expeditions, whereby you'd remain at level 110 and use Legion legendaries, artifact weapons and get as much mythic gear from the Antorus raid as you could possibly get. Then most Twinks in that situation could solo island expeditions, meaning you can run around and clear the whole place very quickly and repeatedly to farm for the rewards. The other two party spots could be taken up by players looking to level a character, and they'd even pay gold for the privilege to do so. Blizzard definitely doesn't like this though and made an announcement about the XP off feature being removed for level 110 characters or higher, specifically saying, "We've noticed an increasing trend of players turning off experience gains at level 110 in order to repeatedly power level other players' characters at an excessive rate without increasing their own level. The intention of the XP off feature is not to purposefully halt progression in content relevant to the current expansion." The wider community weren't too pleased with this and a lot of discussion ensued, until a few hours later Blizzard actually backtracked on their announcement to share that they agreed there'd be better ways to handle this, which is definitely great news. Having said that, I personally don't like the way this initial approach was laid out and announced. The idea that there's only one true and correct way to play the game goes against the essence of what I feel World of Warcraft is. I don't like the term fun detected that a lot of the community applies to situations where Blizzard makes changes against the wishes of the community in general, but I definitely feel this kind of mentality to this kind of change applies 100%, and I'm glad the community made a lot of noise about it. Not only is Twinking such a diverse and large community in terms of farming, PvP and PvE across many level brackets, it's often one of the primary reasons people actually play the game, which can be great for the player economy. Buying and selling items that Twinks require or desire is quite lucrative, since it's often done by players who have been there and done that and are looking for a unique and fun challenge in the game, and spending gold on doing so is one outlet. As someone who focuses primarily on the gold making and economy side of the game, this mindset from Blizzard is worrying to me, and I think it should be to everyone. They could then decide that this isn't how the game is supposed to be played, which could lead to reduced accessibility to the auction house to bring everyone in line with some arbitrary expectation from the developers of what players are supposed to be doing in the game. And I'm fully aware it's probably an extreme thing to say, but what if they said the same thing about in-game role-playing? Gold making and role-playing generally doesn't warrant engaging with any of the current endgame content if those are your primary reasons to play, so where does that line up with Blizzard's expectations on what you are as a player in their game? Moving on though, I've been talking a little bit about somewhat higher level financial concepts recently, and it can be important to at least be familiar with them in order to better strategize your endgame gold making. In the first instance, I always encourage the idea of diversification to the point that you can consider yourself a grocery store or even a supermarket. You don't go to your local store and only expect to see one item for sale, for example. You'd expect to see lots of varieties of different items. Stuff that sells frequently, and then some products that doesn't sell as frequently but still has customers that will come in and buy them. You can often categorize them on a chart where the highly traded items are at the top left, while things that sell less often are slotting in towards the bottom of the slope, which is called the long tail. In game, you can place things like trade materials at the head of the long boy on this chart, and things like Burning Crusade crafted blacksmithing transmog towards the tail, for example. One is very frequently sold, the other less often but still has some demand and potentially has a great margin. You can decide if you want to compete for the high frequency products with large volumes being traded every day, or spread your efforts across many more slightly niche items that may cover the same amount of potential revenue overall. The second concept comes from lots of people that ask about crafting things when they've noticed the component materials seem to be more valuable than the end product, as if they're expecting a magic fix or some kind of hidden auction house where they can potentially charge more for their crafted goods. This is what's called opportunity cost, which is defined as the value of a choice relative to an alternative choice. So when an option is chosen from two mutually exclusive alternatives, the opportunity cost is the cost incurred by not enjoying the benefit associated with the alternative choice. So in simple terms, or World of Warcraft terms, this is the situation described earlier. By crafting a flask with the herbs, you lose the opportunity to sell the herbs at a higher price and therefore don't make as much profit. Another example of opportunity cost is the amount of time spent per item. Let's say you spend 5 minutes crafting for a 10 gold profit flask or potion, hypothetically. That is a cost to you of 5 minutes. That could be spent doing a world quest or crafting a different item or items worth more than 10 gold. This is why smaller profitable items, for example bags with a very minimal profit margin, aren't done by the higher end gold goblins due to the opportunity cost of their time, that they'd rather be focusing on larger profitable items with the same amount of time required to do it. On the extreme side of things, a lot of new goblins and gold makers will spend a few hours farming some herbs, for example, and then craft flasks since it is 100% profit to them after obtaining their materials for free. Items and your time have an inherent value, and just because you didn't trade any other items or currency for them doesn't mean that they're for free. You certainly wouldn't want to give them away for free, would you? With that said though, it's not always possible to do the one thing that's the most profitable thing to do per item. You might have an abundance or a surplus of raw materials that you wouldn't reasonably be able to sell in a given time frame. In that case, you may consider doing the crafts, activities or sales further down the list of profitability, but higher up the list of sale rate to diversify your revenue. A profit of 100 gold per item for a frequently selling item is probably better than 1000 gold profit for an item that sells once a week at most, as an example. So, thinking about the long tail of the auction house, Reddit user Old World Riches shared some of their favourite markets, which I immediately identify with, as some of my own favourite selling items from previous expansions. You can do some things once per character, such as the Sulfuran Hammer recipe and the Shadowmourne questline for the valuable rewards. Enchanters have Tome of Illusions, which can sometimes have very little competition. Engineers can make several mounts, including the Sky Golem plus the Blingtron 4000, which has a daily gift box that has a chance to contain a little bling pet and all of the desirable bank alt transmog items such as the High Society top hat. Alchemists have a lot of transmutes available, including Arcanite, Pyrium, Titanium and Trillium bars, or Pandaria rare gems. I personally like to use my daily cooldown on Primal Water to Primal Air, and when combined with the Transmute Mastery, this can be very profitable. Miners can smelt Titan Steel and Dark Iron bars that are used in a lot of blacksmithing and engineering crafts. Jewel crafters can prospect Pandarian ore for the gems to use in Tome of Illusions and various mounts, including the Panther mounts from the same profession. There are also various heirloom and twink item enhancements that several professions can craft. Leatherworking gets leg armor kits, inscription can make shoulder enchants, and enchanting gets several weapon and armor enchants that are considered best in slot for leveling or twinking. That brings things to an end for the third method goldmaking recap. Hopefully you heard some interesting tips or information that you guys can apply to your own goldmaking strategies. If you did, please leave a like on the video and a comment letting us know. I'll also be answering any questions you might have under the video, and as always, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more updates from Method. If you have been, thanks so much for listening. My name is Gumdrops with Method and Wowhead. If you'd like to find me online, check the links in the description for my Twitter and Twitch links, where I'm streaming 3 times a week with goldmaking and trade skill master Q&A coaching sessions. Until next time guys, take it easy and happy goldmaking.